let's see, Mireya here, Ethan here, Karina here, Logan here, Mayo, Maze here, Laurel here, Moberly here, Lauren here, Steve's here, Darren, Petty here, Randall here, Jared here, Smith excused, Bryson, and Westin is excused today. All right, did you guys get started on your group stuff? I waited on purpose a little bit to post the individual portion because it's going to kind of depend upon all the stuff that we put together. I'll post that later today. These are for two purposes. A, to kind of get you working on that stuff, and B, I need a homework grade. You guys will get good grades, but just turn in the assignments. For upper level stuff, I never worry about the grade. I'm more interested in learning and teaching. All right, there is one more thing that I want to do that's going to also help you with your valuation purposes. If you guys remember, one of the things we have done, we adjusted forward PE type stuff by time value of money. If all firms had the same risk, we would not care one way or the other. But firms do not necessarily have the same risk. So, example, let's say a firm has a beta of 3. That means if the market goes up by 1%, they're likely to go up by 3, or vice versa, versus another firm that has a beta of 1. And let's say one of them has a PE of, let's say 10, the other has a 9. It's not obvious that you should buy the one that is 9, because 9 could be the one that is risky. So that would be kind of on a risk-adjusted basis. In this class, we're not going to do anything fancy. We're just going to use the CAPM model to estimate that risk-adjusted discount rate. If you remember CAPM model, this is also known as the security market line. Did you guys have this covered in your basic finance class? Have you seen something like this? For any portfolio, expected return on the portfolio minus the risk-free rate is equal to beta of the portfolio times expected rate of return on the market portfolio minus the risk-free rate. This is sometimes known as MRP. MRP is market risk premium. Theoretically, that refers to all the assets that are possible, the bonds, the stocks, but in practice, those betas are calculated typically against something like S&P 500. And this portion is called the risk premium for the portfolio. And beta is known as the systematic risk coefficient. When we value stocks or assets in general, we don't particularly care about the risk that is not systematic. Why? As we talked about it when we were talking about diversification, that risk can be diversified away. So all you care is how much they're exposed to systematic risk. A company like Coke would not be as exposed compared to, let's say, a company like Netflix. Now, on this is a nice little formula, but to make it operational, we need estimates of RF, which is the risk-free rate. The model CAPM is, technically speaking, a kind of a timeless model. It's like what you have now versus future. So it's not clear what's the time concept you have on that risk-free rate. Since we are not clear the maturity for the risk-free rate, in practice, we use something like 10-year Treasury bond yield. Technically speaking, that's not risk-free, but remember the CAPM model doesn't have any time concept. So when you invest in the stocks, you don't invest it for tomorrow. You invest it for long term. So in that sense, it's kind of a reference rate. It's a rate against which we're measuring the success and failure of the investment. So that part is fine. Beta is something to be estimated. Again, at this level, I'm not going to go into details of how best to estimate beta, because it is not something that is constant over time, because riskiness of the firms change over time. Think about Google in 2004 versus Google now. If somehow, you had the opportunity to invest in either, and I told you that they had the same expected return, which one would you invest in, Google now or Google in 2004? That's when Google was first IPO'd. Which one do you think would be a better alternative, assuming they have the same expected return? Google now or Google then? Google then? Why? But I told you they have the same expected return. I mean, return is based on the prices. Anyway, return means expected price in the future divided by the current price minus 1, right? Current price is what current price is. Doesn't matter. Remember, we talked about at a kind of basic level, we look at investments from two perspectives, risk and reward. I'm telling you that the rewards are same. So if you had to pick one of them, you should go for the one that is less risky. So which one of those firms would be less risky, Google then or Google now? Google now. Google now, because it's an established company. Google then, even though we had high expectations, anything could have happened, At some point, people thought Yahoo was a great company. Does anyone remember what happened to Yahoo? I mean, some people still have a Yahoo email address, but they're like the dinosaurs. We have only fossils of them. I mean, some people have even an AOL email addresses. So it's not clear that even though the company was promising it's going to survive. Yahoo didn't, and AOL didn't. So this is something to be estimated. So it changes over time. In practice, especially for our purposes, it's not a bad start to look at sources like FinanceYahoo.com. I mean, there are other places that you can look at. For example, let's look at Coke. They have an estimated beta of about 0.60. That 5-year monthly means that beta was estimated using 5 years worth of monthly return data, using kind of a linear regression. But we're going to kind of take that as given. On the other hand, let's look at a company like Palantir Technologies. 270. You know, it's kind of even though they've been public for a while, the entire AI business is relatively new, and they're doing well, but that's no guarantee that they'll be able to survive. You know, AI is based on technology. Maybe someone is going to come up with a better can opener and, steal their business. Who knows? That's why that 270 is there. So if someone told you that Coke and Palantir had the same expected reward, you should definitely invest into Coke. Or alternatively, you kind of want a higher premium, higher discount to buy a company like Palantir Technologies. So if they had some sort of PE of 10 and Coke had 12, more than likely that 12 looks a lot better, because we're going to adjust for that riskiness by discounting the future earnings. Remember, we calculate 5 years forward PE, for example. We're going to discount that using the expected return. So we will get these using published sources. I mean, if you estimate it yourself, that's fine too. But that's more like a graduate class. For example, let's see what CNBC says the beta is. Even if they have it. Let's see. Yeah, they estimate it to be 106. I don't know based on what. So different websites use different technologies. So just make sure that you use the same one to be consistent. On the other hand, let's look at Coke. It should be much lower, but come on. Yeah, it's about the same as Yahoo estimates.